Welcome to Bernadette's Post. I'll be showing how I created this Quasar watercolor painting. There will be a full product list in the description. Use a pencil to lightly design an outline. I used a clean mop brush with water just to wet the page, and then I dropped some color, leaving areas in the center white. I used a clean, wet mini round brush just to blend out the edges. Once the layer dries, re-wet with a mop brush and then use a very thin mini to outline the inside of the galaxy. Add a black dot in the center of the galaxy for the black hole and then darken the outside space area. With a clean brush, wet the galaxy and then use a thin mini brush to add in purple and blue strips of galaxy colors. Continue building up the outside space in layers. Even though this is watercolor paper, I did get some curling of the pages, so I just used a small mini brush to kind of even out the pigment in areas that it started to pull up. Continue building up the layers, adding a dot, and then mopping the whole entire page to wet, and then adding some more areas of the galaxy, filling in with strips of purple and blue and blending together with a wet brush. Using a clean brush, drop water around the outside of the galaxy and drop in areas of gray and white. Adding wet on wet will allow the color to spread out and it looks really neat and very much like clouds. I switched to a large Crayola brush and then continued to darken the outside space area. I continued building up the galaxy by using a clean, wet brush and wetting the entire area, and then I switched to a mini, thin, round brush. Using very minimal water and gray and white pigment, I outlined the entire galaxy. Then I continued inward using dark blues, light blues, and purples, and blending the layers together. And I use Daniel Smith masking fluid. You just pop off the top and apply a small little applicator to it. Make sure it fits on there good. And just kind of shake out any air bubbles onto some loose paper towel. Then using a roller just for a guide, start lining out the line across one edge to the next. Depending on how much masking fluid you use, it takes probably about 15 minutes to dry. After it dries, wet the entire page with a mopping brush, and then continue building up the dark layers around the outside edges. To mix the outer dark space area with the inner dust cloud, I dropped some white and gray color with some water using a mini round brush along the outer edges. I kind of let one edge dry a little bit too much and I had to add some gray and some white just to blend it out, which created kind of like a cloudy effect. I went a little bit too high with the bottom lines masking fluid. I'll have to go back over that later. I just continued on and connected the dust cloud from left to right using some gray and a very mini brush. And then I continued to outline the outside edges, darkening up the outside space area. I softened any harsh wet lines with a wet round brush, and I added some white and gray just to make sure that it blended well. I continued to build up contrast throughout the dust cloud by adding white and gray with a thin mini brush and then wetting the areas with a clean wet brush to spread out the pigment. Once the previous layer has dried, I continued building up the inner galaxy layers with dark blues, purples, and turquoise. I haven't mentioned yet, but I left 2 areas of white for beams of plasma coming out of the black hole. I just made sure to avoid that while I was filling in the galaxy as well. Once I got to the center area of the galaxy, I started to paint that area orange and blend in with the blue. Using the same technique I used around the outside of the dust cloud, I'm going to drop in colors of gray and white and then spread the pigment with a wet mini brush just to make sure that the clouds blend in with the galaxy center. I used Sakura Koi watercolor paints, and I also switched to Crayola for a little bit of the turquoise blue throughout the plasma beams. Using a round thin mini brush, I painted in waves of turquoise color in the plasma. I also added waves of white and then added green to the turquoise. I continued to build up the inner galaxy layer. first time trying watercolor markers. Seeing there's quite an assortment of colors. I just decided to use the orange and the black for this. I used the black watercolor marker just to brighten up the black hole, and then the orange to outline the outer area. Then I just blended the orange in with the blue. Once that dried, I used a rubber cement eraser to lift off the area of the dust cloud covered with masking fluid, and then filled that in. I continued building up the center galaxy colors, spiraling and blending the colors together. I continued with the final touches, just brightening up the final layer with orange around the center, brightening up the outer edges, and adding some fading white around the plasma. Once that's dry, use the rubber cement eraser to lift off the last layer of masking fluid. I then used Crayola watercolor pencils, and I used the orange and the blue. I filled around the black hole a little, and then I filled in 2 frequency lines along the plasma rays. I added some more final touches. In the Sakura Koi watercolor set that I have, it also came with a watercolor mutter brush. I used that with some white just to add some depth to the frequency lines in the plasma layers. I added Daniel Smith's luminescent moonstone to some white watercolor paint. Then I loaded a brush and tapped it against a clean brush's end, creating splatter and starlike areas. I signed in moonstone luminescent, a heart symbol for a bee, and a black fine tip pen for my name. And then remove the masking tape and it's all done. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more.